Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. And in today's video, we are discussing age, gender, education, and so many aspects in relationship to income and household incomes, individual incomes in the United States of America. Now, in this recent years, I've been following a conversation about six figures. Everybody's so enamored about six figures. And six figures starts at $100,000 and ends at $999,000, $999.99. So if you're discussing about it, what percentage of Americans actually make that, and what is realistic? What is the average person making? How much is the average person taking in? Households, what are the different factors that affect that? We're talking about the educational level, the gender, and definitely the age. So let's get straight into this list. It's a bunch of statistics. I'm going to read them off because I have notes and I can't remember all of them. I do remember a lot of them on my head. However, I want to make sure that I am correctly communicating this. And when I read this study, and I'll put the link in the description for the article, but it's really interesting to see what is realistic because we hear a lot of things online, so we can manage our expectations of ourselves and of other people. So with statistics, it's really hard to confirm a lot of things in the present. So about 1 to 2 years is when it takes to really solidify a lot of statistics. And that's why some of these dates will probably be looking at a lot of 2020, 2021, maybe some 2022. We still wouldn't have a lot of data for 2023 because we're still in this year. So in the United States, the median household income in 2021 was $70,784. And this is an increase of $2,774, or about 4% from the previous year, which was 2020. So we can see that the median household income has risen, because I do remember back in like 2015 was about $65,000. So we can see that between then and now it has increased about $5,000. And this is according to the Census Bureau. So they released this information in September of 2022 and it was addressing the previous year. So we probably wouldn't get stats of this year till maybe next year, September, around the same time, once they've had enough time to process all of the data. Adjusted for inflation, however, it has actually decreased since 2020 by about $402, or about 0.6% for the median household income. And that's because inflation is currently very high. And the feds are doing a lot to decrease inflation. And so the economy seems to be doing better now, but especially back then, inflation was very high and it's still high right now. Adults between the age of 45 and 54 remain the top earners, which makes sense because most people peak in their earnings around that age. And their median household income is about $97,089. And that is 37% higher than the median household income across all ages. Now, we all know that there's a gender gap. So among women, the median income for a full-time working woman is about $51,226, while for men, it is about $61,180. So almost a whole 10 grand difference. And this is among full-time workers. Now, the type of work, of course, makes a big difference. But let's get more into this. Let's start with states. What states have the highest median income for households and what states have the lowest? So topping the list is actually my former state of residence, which is Maryland, which the median household income for 2021 was $97,332. Now that's also where the richest black county is in the United States is located, which is pretty sure this county. And they also have other rich counties such as Howard County, Montgomery County. So I can definitely see why. It also has one of the highest rates for home ownership and is considered one of the states with the best quality of life. So Maryland for 2021 was at $97,332, and following closely behind is District of Columbia, or better known as DC, is $90,640. I mean, when you realize that Maryland is slightly less expensive than DC. Next is New Hampshire at $88,841, New Jersey at $88,000. $559. And I'm just gonna list the states that come after that. It's Utah, Washington State, Massachusetts, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, California. And to go towards the lowest states, the lowest one is Mississippi at just $46,637. Then next is West Virginia at $46,836. And actually West Virginia decreased from 2020 by almost 10%. So back in 2020, the median household income was at $51,970. And in 2021, it went down to $46,836. So next was Arkansas at about $50,000, New Mexico at $53,000, and Kentucky also had a decline, which was from $56,755 back in 2020 to $55,629,000 in 2021. So those were some interesting changes because most states had an increase from 2020 to 2021 versus them, they had a decrease. From there, we have West Virginia, Arkansas, New Mexico, Kentucky, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Oklahoma, Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. And a lot of those states are like southern states, which typically have lower cost of living versus the northern states that tend to be much more expensive, or California. And that is just something to consider because salaries are more so dependent on where you live. So if you live in New York and make 90 grand, you could have the exact same quality of life as somebody in Texas who makes, say, 55, 60 grand. Money in different locations mean different things and how people live versus saying, oh, this person makes more money. Yeah, but they're spending twice as much on rent. And of course, I mentioned stats about age. Most workers peak in their salary about their 40s, early 50s, and then they are working their way towards retirement. So during their 60s, it typically declines. However, they do have the highest median household income out of all other ages. So in the US, typically workers see their income jump after the age of 24, and the biggest decrease right before retirement. That's very interesting, isn't it? And when I'm talking about retirement, I'm talking about 65 and older. So typically that's around the time people are retiring. People are retiring later than, back when it used to be typical to retire like just 62. And something interesting is that for 2021, households of 15 to 24 years, which I was like, 15-year-olds for their household, interesting, had a 5.2% increase in the median household income. Meanwhile, people over the age of 55 faced the largest decline at 2.6% decline in their income compared to that of the previous year. And workers between the ages of 25 and 34 also saw a 0.1% decline, which is very tiny in their income compared to the previous year. When we're talking about women, I did say that women make about $10,000 on average less than men. And we're talking about women who work full-time, and their median salary is about $10,000 less than the median salary of men. Now, while that may seem like a lot of money, back in 1973, women earned 56.6 cents for every dollar a man made. Because back then it was very normal, especially the wage gap was much, much bigger and more normal. So if today the men were making, hypothetically to make it simpler, were earning about $100,000, then the woman will earn 56.6% of that, which is $56,000. But in 2022, women are earning about 83 cents for a man's dollar, which is better, but come on, we can get that to a more equal place. Now, I can't just say that without recognizing that there are several reasons why this wage gap happens. One, of course, is that women give birth. So during the time that a lot of women go through motherhood, which a lot of women do, even though there's been a decline, there's still a significant portion of women who have children and want children in the future. And when that time happens, a lot of them take off maternity leave. Some of them take up a few years to stay home. So their male counterparts are still getting working experience while they are balancing motherhood, their careers. A lot of women are the caregivers in their homes, whether it's for their families, children, or even their parents versus their male counterparts. And I can't ignore that women typically work in some industries that don't pay as much as the industries that men are diversified in. So for example, in engineering, women make up a much smaller percentage than men. Over 70% of engineers are men, and engineering is one of those careers that are high paying. And it's not out of the ordinary for me to go to a meeting and sometimes be the only woman there, including being one of the very few Black people there. And it's been happening since I started doing internships. We don't see a lot of Black people or people of color, and we definitely don't see a lot of women. Women tend to be in a lot of fields such as nursing, teaching, the caregiving. Typically, those are not industries that pay as well. It doesn't mean they're not as valuable in society, because they very much so are. We all play a part to make sure that we keep the economy going and keep this world moving. But I do want to note that from 2020 to 2021, the median income for full-time working men actually decreased from $61,417 to $61,180, while for women it actually increased from $50,982 to $51,226. When we come to talk about race, it can definitely be more of a touchy subject than gender, and definitely more than age. So the racial group with the highest median household income are Asians. And back in 2020, the median household income was $94,903, and in 2021 that jumped to $101,418. So they have the median household income with 6 figures, and they're the only racial group to have that, compared to white, which is $74,262 in 2021. And then we have Hispanic, which Hispanic is not a race, it's more of an ethnicity. So you have Afro-Latinos, you have white Latinos, you have Asian Latinos, and you have Native Latinos, and then the mixed race ones. So Latin America is not one race. I know sometimes people like to call them brown people, but for example, if you go to Argentina, majority of people in Argentina are actually white. So when people say black and brown or brown people, it's a way of mixing everybody together, which makes absolutely no sense. It's like calling yourself an American. It doesn't denote to your race. But Hispanic households had a median income of $57,981, and the Black household was the lowest at $48,297. But that was an increase from 2020. There's several reasons why we can talk about the racial disparities, especially considering the system that we live in. I think that's a whole nother video that we can break this down. But I do think it would be disingenuous not to at least recognize that historically speaking, there's some systems that have been put in place, as well as other cultural things that just keep the Black community behind. Now let's move on to education, because we are in a time in our life today where a lot of people talk about how education does not matter. And there are more opportunities for people who did not get a college education. However, there's still benefits, and there's still some career fields that you can only access through education. And some of these are very high paying jobs. For example, being a doctor. Nobody wants to go to a doctor who didn't go to medical school. And being a doctor is a very high paying position. Most doctors are making over 6 figures. And that's not the only one. Being a lawyer, you have to go to law school, or at least pass the bar exam. Most go to law school. I guess you don't have to, but going any other way for most people is not easy. So you have to go to law school, pass the bar exam, and blah, 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 blah. Most people will want to choose a lawyer who has a law degree. And so that's another high paying career field. Even being an engineer, most engineers have college degrees. Most computer scientists, most researchers, especially in the medical research, they have education, they have higher education. That the people who have the largest median household income in the United States by education are people who have a bachelor's degree or higher at $115,456, which is an increase from 2020, which was at $106,936. You know, an interesting stat that I read years ago, which could definitely contribute to this, is that especially in Black households, women who have college degrees are more likely to get married than Black women who don't have college education. It's very interesting, and I want to know what you think about that. And I do think that could contribute, because if people with college degrees are more likely to get married, that means they're bringing in 2 high-paying jobs into a household versus somebody who is less likely to be married, which means that they're a one-person household or one person with children, because there's a high rate of single motherhood. But I did find that very interesting. For people with just some college, for 2021, it was at $64,378. for high school but no college is at $50,401, and for no high school diploma at all, it's at $30,378. So we can see that people who go to college on average make more money. Now, am I saying that college is the only way to make money and to have a successful career? Of course not, but I went to college and it was such a great time in my life. I learned so much. I got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and I'm currently getting my master's degree in engineering management, and I find value in education. I would not have it any other way. And it was a stat that did say that on average, somebody who goes to college makes about $1 million more in their lifetime than somebody who does not. And I know college is expensive. I know that student loans are all-time high, and I have several videos on how to go to college debt-free. But even let's say you spend $100,000 on college as an investment, you're still gonna make on average about $1 million more than the average person who does not go to college. That's just something to think about. And another reason why a lot of people who don't go to college have a hard time finding these high-paying jobs is because a lot of these high-paying jobs, they want some knowledge factors. It's about learning, being able to understand systems. So I do know that some people think that, oh, like you don't need a college education, it's discriminatory. However, there's some things that you need the foundation. You need to guarantee that at least you have the foundation knowledge for it. And what way to do that better than a college degree? But let's also say that there's a position that does not require a college degree, but you have two candidates. One has a college degree, one has no college degree. Most people pick the one with the college degree because at least that's an added factor. But also, it's easier to pivot in your career when you have an education. So for example, even though I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, if I wanted to pivot to something else, there are a lot of career fields that I can pivot to that's not just in my current position. And that makes me marketable because even though I am an engineering major, we did a lot of math, so I can easier pivot into something mathematical or something computer science related, because I did take some computer science classes. So these experiences give you just little things that will make it easier for you to pivot versus somebody who doesn't have much options because they're just looking for jobs that don't require a bachelor's degree or any type of education. I remember years ago, Elon Musk was talking about how the college doesn't really teach you anything. It's about partying and that's it. Yet Tesla requires that their engineers have a bachelor's degree. So that's something that's very interesting. So think about it. When you hear people talk about college is not important, college is this and that, think about it. What do they look for when they're hiring people? Why are they saying that? And what would they look for if they were hiring people? Look at their doctors. Do their doctors have medical degrees? Do their lawyers have a law degree? And don't feel pressured. Find out, is college right for you? Don't let anybody push you into it or any specific major, but definitely don't let people discourage you from getting a college education. Hear people talk about six figures. And while that's not normally in my field, I do think that for the general population, people need to realize that less than 20% of all Americans actually make six figures. In case you didn't know that, that's the number. Less than 19% of people make six figures. So when you take a look at that and you realize that these are individuals, when we talk about households, it's slightly more, when we're talking about one person making six figures, that's not the average person. It's considered an anomaly. Over 80% of Americans don't make that. That's all I'm trying to communicate. And so let me know in the comment section what you think about this. What are you thinking about all these stuff about six figures? And what do you think about college education and the gender pay gap? Feel free to leave any of the comments. I'll be reading them and answering them. So thank you so much. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell because I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays. Come on over because it's interesting. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.